The chill morning air over Linköping carries the metallic hum of aviation. Inside a brightly lit hangar, the gleaming silhouette of a Swedish Gripen fighter jet stands against a backdrop of flags, blue and yellow for Sweden, blue and gold for Ukraine. Reporters murmur quietly, cameras poised. The tension of diplomacy is mixed with the unmistakable energy of history in the making. Moments later, the doors open. Walking side by side, Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky enter the hall. Their steps are measured, their expressions solemn but determined. This is more than just another state visit. It's a declaration of intent, quite literally. Today, Sweden and Ukraine are taking a bold step toward deepening their defense partnership. In front of them lies a document, a letter of intent, that could reshape the skies over Eastern Europe. Its aim, for Kyiv to purchase between 100 and 150 of the latest Gripen fighter jets, a fleet powerful enough to alter the military balance in the ongoing conflict with Russia. The two leaders take their seats at the signing table. The Swedish and Ukrainian flags flank them like silent witnesses. A pen slides across paper, a moment that lasts only seconds but carries the weight of years of war, resilience, and strategic necessity. As cameras click, Kristersson looks up, his voice firm yet reflective. So, allow me to summarize, he begins. The step we're taking today through this Swedish-Ukrainian letter of intent creates the necessary preconditions for a major export deal on the Gripen fighters between our two countries. It's a short statement, just a few seconds, but it lands with precision. For Sweden, a nation known for its neutrality and restraint, this agreement marks a new era. For Ukraine, still battling the relentless pressure of Russian air power, it represents a promise, the possibility of air superiority in a war defined by drones, missiles, and attrition. Kristersson continues, acknowledging the challenges ahead. We are fully aware that there is still a long way to go, he says, pausing briefly before adding. But as of today, we are committed to exploring all possibilities to supply Ukraine with a large number of Gripen fighters in the future. In that phrase, all possibilities, lies the essence of Sweden's shift. Since joining NATO earlier this year, Stockholm has moved from cautious observer to proactive ally. The Gripen, developed by Saab, is one of Europe's most versatile multi-role fighters, agile, cost-efficient, and designed for exactly the kind of contested airspace Ukraine now faces. For President Zelensky, today's visit is not just about technology or procurement, it's about trust. It's about showing that Ukraine's Western partners are not only standing with it politically, but are also investing in its long-term defense. He listens attentively as Kristersson speaks, then nods, his trademark olive jacket standing out among the tailored suits around him. When he finally takes the podium, his tone is deliberate. He thanks Sweden for what he calls a gesture of courage and partnership. He reminds the audience that Ukraine's skies have been the front line of Europe's security for nearly 3 years, thousands of missile attacks, hundreds of drone incursions, and still Ukraine fights on. The Gripen deal, he says, is a lifeline for future generations of Ukrainian pilots. Every aircraft like this, Zelensky notes, gesturing toward the jet behind him, means more lives saved, more cities protected, more hope kept alive. The room falls silent. It's one of those moments where political ceremony gives way to raw emotion. Behind him, the jet, a sleek grey machine with wings angled for speed, becomes a symbol of defiance. The Gripen has always been a source of national pride in Sweden. Designed for flexibility, it can take off from short rural airstrips, rearm in minutes, and operate under extreme conditions. For Ukraine, where infrastructure has been repeatedly targeted, this makes the aircraft a perfect fit. Zelensky nods beside him, his expression tightening. If defending our freedom provokes Russia, he says, then the problem is not ours, it's theirs. The remark draws quiet applause from the Swedish audience. For the Ukrainian president, this is more than diplomacy. It's a continuation of his relentless global campaign to secure lasting security guarantees. From Washington to Brussels, Oslo to Stockholm, Zelensky has been pressing allies not only for weapons, but for long-term defense integration. Today's announcement in Linköping fits that pattern perfectly. It's a bridge between wartime urgency and peacetime planning. While other nations are supplying short-range systems and ammunition, Sweden is signalling something more profound, the start of an air defense partnership that could last decades. Behind the political military terms, the agreement signed today doesn't yet commit Sweden to immediate delivery. It's a letter of intent, a formal expression of willingness, not a binding contract. But it's a crucial precursor. It opens the door for negotiations on production, financing and pilot training, and it signals that Kyiv's allies are now considering long-term re-equipment, not just short-term aid. Zelensky's visit to Sweden comes at a time of shifting dynamics in Europe. The war in Ukraine has reached a grinding phase, with neither side making significant territorial gains. But air defence and long-range strike capabilities remain decisive factors. For months, Ukrainian officials have been urging Western governments to supply advanced jets, from the US-made F-16 to European aircraft like the Gripen. Now, with this Swedish partnership, that ambition inches closer to reality. Reporters note how carefully the words letter of intent were chosen. It's a diplomatic phrase, cautious yet full of potential. It means discussions are no longer theoretical. It means both sides are ready to move forward. Behind closed doors, defence industry representatives from Saab AB, the manufacturer of the Gripen, have already begun consultations with Ukrainian technical teams. Sources indicate that pilot familiarisation and maintenance logistics will form the core of upcoming talks. In Stockholm, the announcement has been met with both excitement and scrutiny. Critics worry about the cost and the risks of escalating tensions with Moscow, but supporters argue that Sweden, now a NATO member, has a moral and strategic duty to contribute to European security, and helping Ukraine modernise its air force does exactly that. The Gripen's reputation has always rested on its adaptability. Unlike larger, heavier aircraft, it was built for nations that needed high performance without superpower budgets. For Ukraine, which has seen much of its Soviet-era fleet destroyed or damaged, that combination of affordability and capability is key. Back in the conference room, the press event continues. The two leaders take questions from journalists. One Swedish reporter asks Kristersson whether this deal could provoke Russia. The Prime Minister answers firmly, "Supporting Ukraine's right to defend itself is not an act of provocation, it is an act of principle." Cal's speeches, the human element remains palpable. For the engineers and technicians who maintain the Gripen program, this deal represents pride. For Ukrainian pilots who have faced daily bombardments from Russian aircraft, it represents survival. As Zelensky tours the hangar after the signing, he stops beside one of the aircraft, running his hand briefly along its fuselage. He exchanges words with a Swedish test pilot, nodding thoughtfully. Cameras capture the moment. A leader at war, studying the machine that could one day help defend his homeland's skies. Outside on the airfield, the day is cold but bright. A formation of Gripen jets performs a brief fly-past, their engines slicing through the crisp air. The roar echoes across the countryside, symbolic, powerful, and unmistakably Swedish. For observers, this display isn't just a show of technology, it's a message. Sweden, long admired for its neutrality, is now fully stepping into its role as a security contributor. Its defence industry is aligning with NATO priorities. And for Ukraine, that means access to one of the world's most capable light fighters. Military analysts say that if even half of the intended 150 jets eventually reach Ukraine, the impact could be transformative. It would give Kyiv the ability to contest airspace across its territory, intercept incoming missiles, and support ground operations more effectively. Still, there are hurdles, export controls, financing terms, and pilot training timelines all stand in the way. But as Kristersson put it, we are committed to exploring all possibilities. That commitment, cautious yet determined, echoes the broader mood in Europe. Across the continent, governments are realizing that Ukraine's defense is inseparable from their own security. The war has erased the old distinctions between East and West, frontline and rear guard. As the event concludes, the two leaders stand again before the cameras. They exchange a firm handshake, one that symbolizes not just friendship, but shared destiny. The backdrop of the Gripen, the flags, the applause, it all converges into a single image, the merging of two nations' resolve. Zelensky thanks Kristersson personally before turning to the press. "We have seen many battles," he says quietly, "but today we also see the future of partnership, technology and freedom." The Swedish Prime Minister responds simply, "And Sweden will stand with Ukraine as long as it takes." The applause rises again. As the cameras fade and officials begin to disperse, the jet remains centre stage, silent and gleaming. It is a reminder of how far Europe has come, from neutrality to alliance, from caution to commitment. For Ukraine, the path ahead is uncertain, but every alliance like this brings a new layer of protection, a new strand of hope. And for Sweden, today's letter of intent is not just paperwork. It's a declaration that history has changed course once again right here in the heart of Linköping.